Hello, good morning. I am Niranjan Sharma, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Srimati Rukmini Shetty Memorial National Government First Grade College, Barkur. Today I would like to read and discuss a poem. The title of the poem is Solitude by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. You know the meaning of the word solitude, and I think during these COVID lockdown days, you may have experienced what solitude is. Solitude is a state or situation of being alone. You may have experienced what solitude is during these days. I have decided to take up this poem and read it. We have read this poem already. I want you to go back to this poem and reread it in a different dimension. Dear friends, I would like to draw your attention to one thing, that is, there is a kind of paradoxical relationship between solitude and poetry. See, a poet needs solitude to write something. He wants isolation from the hustle and bustle of the everyday life. It is only in solitude that creative impulses can find an expression. Powerful emotions should be recollected in tranquility. Tranquility can be got only in solitude. See, once the poem is written, it has to be read and appreciated by readers. So, a written poem establishes connection. People read it, singers sing them as songs. A group of dancers could dance to the song. So, it becomes a thing of the community where there is no solitude. So there is a kind of paradoxical relationship between solitude and poetry. This is what I would like to draw your attention to. And in English literature, there are many poems about solitude, poems celebrating solitude. Just to mention one poem, there is a poem by Alexander Pope titled Ode on Solitude. And the last stanza, I would just like to quote the last stanza of this poem by Alexander Pope. Thus let me live unseen, unknown. Thus let me die unlamented, steal from the world, not a stone tell where I lie. This is how the poem Ode on Solitude ends, written by Alexander Pope. Okay, let me take up this poem, Solitude by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Let me read the poem first, the first stanza of the poem. The poem is titled Solitude. Laugh, and the world laughs with you. Weep, and you weep alone. For the sad old earth must borrow its mirth, but has trouble enough of its own. Sing, and the hills will answer. Sigh, it's lost on the air. The echoes bound to a joyful sound, but shrink from voicing care. This is the first stanza of the poem. Dear friends, just look at this. when you laugh, you have many people around you cheering you up, taking part in your celebration. But when you weep, you find nobody around you. This is how the world is. See, let me tell you one thing. Solitude, the idea of solitude, is at the heart of this poem. It seems to me that the philosophy of this poem is that human beings are ultimately alone. We must face our life, we must live our life alone. Nobody could come to help us. See, the poem is built on these contrasting conditions, contrasting situations. Laughing on the one hand, weeping on the other. See, how does the world, how does the society respond when you laugh? And how does the society respond when you weep? So, the poem is about these human emotions and how they are responded to by the society, by the community. Look at these two contrasting emotions. You laugh, and the world will laugh with you. You weep, and you will have to weep alone. This is the contrasting conditions on which the whole poem is built. Okay. And I would like to draw your attention to one literary device used here, that is personification. Where do we find that personification? Look at this line, the third line of the poem. For the sad old earth must borrow its mirth. This earth is described as old and sad. It's an old earth. It is there for millions and millions of years. So therefore it is an old earth. And it is a sad earth. This earth has no source of happiness to draw happiness from. So it has to seek happiness elsewhere. It has to borrow happiness. So the poet says, the speaker says, the sad old earth, which is a personification, the earth is personified as having these human attributes. The earth is sad, the earth is old, and it has to borrow its mirth, enjoyment, happiness. It has no source of happiness of its own. So whenever people are happy, they find other people joining them. They find other people taking part in their celebration. But when they are in a sad mood, when they suffer, they find nobody to console them, to help them. See, this is what the reality of human life is. And look at the next line. Sing, and the hills will answer. Singing and sighing. As we have seen, laughing and weeping. Now we have singing and sighing. What is the reaction of the bird when you sigh? It is lost on the air. It goes unnoticed. The word just pass by, taking no note of your sighing, taking no note of your suffering. Sing, and the hills will answer. Sigh, it is lost on the air. ಹಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಹಾಡಿನ ಜಾಡು ಹಿಡಿದು ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಜನ. ನೋವಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಪ್ರಪಂಚ ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಗೆ ಸಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ನೋಡಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನು. The echoes bound to a joyful sound. So the echoes of your song, they sound joyful notes. because the echoes are the echoes of your joyful song, but shrink from voicing care. They don't take your suffering seriously. They shrink from voicing care. They don't care for you. The voice of the song, the echoes of your song, they don't care for you. They just don't care for you. This is the first stanza of the poem. Dear friends, you may have seen how this poem is built. See, what is that the poem is trying to say? I think the poem tries to say that whatever the situation we are in, it is the result of our choice. Our life is the result of our choice, the choice that we make in our life. If we choose to be happy, the life seems to be happy. If we choose to be sad, the world also looks sad to us. This is the first stanza. Let me go to the second stanza. Rejoice, and men will seek you. Grieve, and they turn and go. They want full measure of all your pleasure, but they do not need your woe. Be glad, and your friends are many. Be sad, and you lose them all. There are none to decline your nectared wine, but alone you must drink life's gall. So in this stanza there is a metaphor of drinking. Suppose you are sick, you will have to drink some medicine, some gall, life's gall. It is a life-saving drug. And obviously it is bitter. You don't like it, but you will have to drink it. You have to drink it. If you want to cure yourself, you will have to drink that bitter medicine. You will have to drink it alone. But suppose you are throwing a party, you find many friends in your house. Your rooms will be crowded. I think you know these two terms, fair weather friends and all weather friends. Suppose you are throwing a party, you find many fair weather friends who will be with you when you are in a happy state. And all weather friends are those friends when, they will be with you in all the seasons, regardless of your happiness or unhappiness. They will be with you, they will stand by you. They are all weather friends. There are many friends who are just fair weather friends. See, when you are rejoicing, you find many men. What do they do when you grieve, when you suffer? They just turn and go. They won't be with you. They just turn and go. Means they are fair weather friends. They think that they have nothing to do with your suffering. They just pass by. They want full measure of all your pleasure. Dear students, I just want you to note the internal rhymes used here. In the first stanza, you have these two words, earth and mirth, bound and sound. In the second stanza, you have this internal rhyme, measure and pleasure. I want you to note these two words, these rhyming pattern. Be glad, and your friends are many. Fair weather friends, of course. Be sad, and you lose them all. There are none to decline your nectared wine. This is the metaphor of drinking. You are offering them wine, nectared wine. There will be many people to drink it. But alone you must drink life's gall. The bitter medicine that cures your health, you will have to drink it alone. So with the metaphor of drinking, this idea is explained by the speaker. Let me read the last stanza. Again, you find this contrasting situation. Feast, and your halls are crowded. Fast, and the word goes by. Succeed and give, and it helps you live. But no man can help you die. There is room in the halls of pleasure for a large and lordly train. But one by one we must all file on through the narrow aisles of pain. See, the last stanza is very significant as it draws our attention to life and death. We must all die one day, no doubt about it, and we know this, we are all mortals. We must all file on one day or the other. We must face our pain and suffering alone. Look at the contrasting situations here. Feast on the one hand, fast on the other. When you feast, your halls are crowded. When you fast, when you don't eat anything, when you don't have anything to offer, you don't have anybody around you. So, what should be the motto of our life? To live our life in a more meaningful way. The only way the poem seems to suggest that learn to give and succeed. Success and helping the needy. You must always aim at success, and in your effort to achieve success, you must not forget that you have an obligation, a duty to help those who are in need, who are in dire need. So look at this line, succeed and give, and it helps you live. Life is worth living when you really help others. Succeed and give, and it helps you live. But no man can help you die. You must die your death. We must all die our death. There is room in the halls of pleasure. You will not run short of people when you offer them pleasures. But one by one we must all file on through the narrow aisles of pain. The pain and suffering of your life, you have to face it alone. This is how the poem concludes. Dear friends, during this lockdown period, I thought it is apt to read this poem again. Reading poetry offers solace to people who are lonely. I want you to note these two words, loneliness and solitude. And I want to quote Mary Saturn here, a poet, who says, loneliness is the poverty of self. Solitude is the richness of self. Don't worry if you are in solitude. It is only in solitude that creative impulses can find an expression. So we must learn to enjoy this solitude. During this lockdown time, reading this poem gave me a kind of new spirit. This poem could rejuvenate you. I hope you like this poem, and my sincere suggestion is that you should read this poem again in your solitude and find new meanings to this poem. I will get back to you. Thank you.